the new application, contains specific and material changes from the first application. The planning board will take this vote at the conclusion of the public hearing.
Yes, my name is Barbara Palermo. I live at 26 North Street. Mr. David Plunkett, who's representing me in this matter, has forwarded a letter to the board requesting that we be allowed to withdraw the petition without prejudice. I'm here this evening asking for the board's approval to do that.
Okay, thank you. I have been handed a letter that is from Attorney Plunkett, and I'll read this into the record. A petition for 2628 North Street, petition of Barbara Palermo. Dear Chairman Linehan, board members, please be informed that my office represents the above referenced Barbara Palermo regarding her petition scheduled to be heard Monday, August 21st, 2006 at 6:30 p.m. Please accept this letter as a request to withdraw the above referenced petition without prejudice. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me at my office. Thank you in advance for your courtesy. Yours truly, David Plunkett. Does anybody here want to speak in regards to this matter? The request is to be withdrawn. I don't know if anybody else has come down here at this time to speak on the matter, but the application has requested it be withdrawn. Anybody want to speak? Anybody else want to say anything? No? Request for the matter to be withdrawn. Do we have a motion on the board to allow that to be withdrawn?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we allow the applicant to withdraw without prejudice.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and second to withdraw without prejudice. Chair votes yes, the matter has been withdrawn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down. The next matter on our agenda tonight is a zoning amendment, accessory dwelling unit. The Lowell Planning Board will consider ordinances to amend the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A, therefore entitled Zoning, amending Article 5, Dimensional Requirements, adding Article 2, Definitions, Accessory Dwelling Unit, and adding Section 8.4, Accessory Dwelling Units. This is a matter that has been referred to the Planning Board, and from here we will make our recommendation to the City Council. Anybody here wants to speak in favor of the zoning amendment?
I'll make a brief just overview for the public about this ordinance. James Erickson from DPD. The first section of this ordinance is just recommending a change in some of the floor area ratio requirements in these single-family districts in the city, just to ensure that future development is consistent with new development, previous development. The second part, which is a new section 8.4, is regarding an accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Without going into too much of the details, a brief overview. It's designed to allow people in the suburban traditional single-family zoning districts in the city, some of the more typical single-family areas of the city, to have some form of a second unit on their lot, designed more for an in-law apartment building or a family apartment building. It does mention here also possibly to provide a means of rental income. There's some safeguards and there's some benefits and minuses to the ordinance. Some of the benefits are we try to incorporate as many safeguards as possible to ensure that the accessory dwelling unit is not is in fact secondary to the primary dwelling unit. You have to have one of the owners of the property live in one of the units, so the primary owner of the property must live in either the accessory or the primary dwelling unit. There are some size restrictions on the accessory dwelling unit itself to make sure that it is in fact accessory. There's also some requirements regarding other floor area ratios with regards to the accessory unit and the primary unit, and combined floor area ratios to ensure that the total building size on the lot itself is not out of consistent with the neighborhood. There are some design requirements. If anybody from the public has any questions, DPD has a copy of this. You're welcome to come and talk to us. Some of the minuses that we are aware of in this ordinance that are just big things that in DPD we are concerned about is just the policing of this ordinance. Obviously, it's hard to police such an ordinance. It's a zoning ordinance. Many times when an approval is provided for such an ordinance, it's up to the neighbors to ensure that, in fact, one of the owners of the property does live on site, and it's up to the neighbors to ensure that there are proper amounts of parking, for example. And so we're aware of some of these other downfalls of the ordinance. To give you some background as to why we actually are proposing this ordinance, a number of reasons, one of which there are some interests from one of the neighborhood groups, the Pawtuckaville Neighborhood Group, about providing some form of ordinance that would almost regulate future development of such in-law apartments. Up until now, we haven't had the allowance of such in-law apartments, but they have sort of been done either illegally or through creative building practices. We just wanted to provide some sort of ordinance that provided some level of regularity towards the future development of these. And there's also a stipulation in here that allows people who have already developed one to come back to the city and say, I'd like to make mine legal. What do I have to do? And some other interests came out of some of the other single-family neighborhoods in the area that really, because they didn't have an accessory dwelling, we don't have an accessory dwelling unit ordinance. People weren't allowed to have an in-law apartment, for example, on their house lot. There may have been plenty of space on their house lot, but they still weren't allowed to have that type of ordinance or that type of development. So there's a number of reasons why we are proposing this ordinance. It's in front of the board tonight for review and recommendation. The board can take a number of different options. You can decide to approve this ordinance as is. You could decide to approve this ordinance with recommended changes or recommended additions or recommended just thoughts about the ordinance of where it could be shaped better. Or you could, not do those things. You could decide to say, well, we should really craft this ordinance differently. There is, for the public knowledge, there will be I believe there will be a zoning subcommittee meeting on this ordinance, at which point the zoning subcommittee will be reviewing this ordinance in further detail. If there's any concerns, please express them here tonight. If you're watching at home, please be aware that we will have a zoning subcommittee meeting in the future. The date is not determined at this time. If you want to come to that, please call the Division of Planning and Development, and we'll let you know when that time will be. If there's any questions, if you have any other questions about the ordinance itself, please let me know. Or if you want to go into further detail, let me know.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Anybody here like to speak on behalf of the ordinance? Anyone like to speak on behalf of the ordinance? Anybody in favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody here like to speak in opposition of the ordinance?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Jerry Frechette. I live at 80 Dunbar Ave. I'm the chairman of the Pawtuckaville Citizens Council. I'm here before you this evening to speak in opposition to the ordinance that's proposed here this evening, and primarily because of the use of the accessory dwelling unit, the creation of detached structure in a single-family zone. Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board can recall that there was some issue even in a multifamily zone with detached units. And this, as drafted, creates an opportunity for now a single-family zone to have multiple dwelling units detached on the site. And also specifically is when the idea of coming up with an ordinance, some sort of regulation for in-law apartments. This came up as we were working on the Pawtuckaville Master Plan, and it was noted that throughout the city there has been some in-law apartments being constructed, but really without any formal regulation to monitor that. However, what was not intended, at least from the intent of the body that was reviewing this from the neighborhood group, was to create an ordinance that would allow for separate detached units. However, understanding there may be some instances where that is appropriate. In neighborhoods where there's a grand Victorian with a carriage house, certainly in a case like that, it may fit in very well in some of the historic districts in the city. My concern is you get out into the suburban single-family zones in the city with this post-World War II subdivisions with 10,000 square foot lots, even 7,900 square foot lots, the old the S2 zones, which is now the traditional single-family zone. You're allowing, or what possibility is to have 2 single-family units on that property. Also, the wording, item number 1 under purpose and intent, and this was very disconcerting to the executive board of the neighborhood group. It says provide homeowners with a means of obtaining rental income. When you think of an in-law apartment, you think of providing some sort of housing for elderly parents or somebody in the family that needs some sort of assistance. But what this is really under purpose and intent is highlighting the fact that in a single-family zone, you can build a detached unit for the purpose of rental income. I can tell you in the mortgage business, you think twice before you would use rental income from an in-law apartment. So certainly that's a concern as drafted and as presented to you. Also, the size of the unit, and to today's standards with homes being built at 2,500 square feet, 3,200 square feet, when you talk about maximum of 8% or 800 square feet, that may appear to be small. But I will tell you, and I have intimate knowledge of the dimensions of the capes and ranches that were built in the late 40s and in early 50s, and I have here, matter of fact, when they were actually blueprints of a plan for a single-family home, a cape that was built on University Ave. I know because my father built it. This is the copy of that home. That foundation was 26 by 24, 624 square feet. By the mere creation of this ordinance, you're looking at being able to put something like this on a single-family lot with another single family on there. Very disconcerting the way it's proposed. Also, a concern that was raised is in this ordinance, there is no tie to having that be a family member living in that in-law apartment. And I know there's some debate of how you define that. I can tell you that the city of Haverhill has in it, under their definitions in their zoning code, family, and they define it. Nowhere does this provide any protection to that. The protection is solely is directed towards owner-occupant, but does not discuss the occupants of the accessory dwelling unit. So in essence, that really, I could see that turning into rental property. That's a concern. I think that some of the safeguards, we refer to the floor area ratio, that's one of the few safeguards in there. There's section H, number 2, says the lot need not comply with the lot area per dwelling unit requirement. Well, that was one of the safeguards that was initially in the zoning to begin with. For the minimum usable open space per dwelling unit requirement in table 5.1, only the primary dwelling unit will count as a dwelling unit. Again, these were safeguards that were put in there to begin with, and it seems to be stripped away. In closing, at this juncture, looking at this, I can tell you, and I know you members of this board that participated in the zoning subcommittee meetings that took place, the issues that did arise with the detached units in multifamily zones. This is really creating a tool to now promote detached units in a single-family zone. I think that really needs to be looked at. I can tell you, my mother lived with my wife and I for the last 10 years of her life. Certainly understand the practical application of an in-law apartment. I financed the new construction of a home with in-law apartments. I have an occupancy permit from a house in Drake that we did. So certainly it's something that's practical, and it's something that we felt you need some sort of regulation addressing it. However, I really would ask the board, and you're considering your deliberation here this evening, is to forward this document on. If you do not see fit to revise or amend, is to at least send this on with a negative recommendation as proposed. And I would appreciate your consideration in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fischett. Would anybody else here like to speak in opposition, please?
Good evening. My name is Richard Souza. I live at 101 Ursula Street in Lowell. I have a couple statements that I'd like to read into the record. I have copies for you gentlemen. May I approach?
Yes, you may, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Souza.
I am a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee that was formed by the City Council to formulate a zoning plan for, a master plan for Pawtuckaville with the DPD. And we had a meeting the other night, in fact, and I'd just like to read the statements that I have here so that it gets into the record. The CAC has reviewed the, okay. The CAC does not support the concept of detached units in a single-family zone. However, if this ordinance is adopted, the CAC respectfully requests the following recommendations be considered by the Planning Board. Everywhere that accessory dwelling unit is mentioned, it should be changed to in-law apartment. That's the purpose of this. It's an in-law apartment. Under 8.4.1, delete the first paragraph because there should be no case where a rental unit should be in a single-family zone. Change paragraph C. Add the residents of the in-law apartment must be members of the owner-occupant's family. Change paragraph A to B and paragraph B to C. It's just changing the priorities of what we want. 8.4.2, change paragraph I. Add, if the in-law apartment is above the garage, the area of the garage will be included in the FAR calculations. Change paragraph N, number 4. Delete the words excessive and. Change paragraph R. Add, the DPD shall review and provide written recommendations. Add T. If the in-law apartment is not attached to the main building, it shall not have a basement. Add U. Prior to the granting of any special permit, the DPD shall provide written recommendations to the ZBA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, provide one more piece of information that I forgot to mention. Any project that is proposing an accessory dwelling unit will require a zoning board of appeals special permit. It's a permitting process. It's not just anything that's allowed by right. So they have to both follow anything and everything that's put into the ordinance, plus they need to present that to the zoning board of appeals for an approval. And we're trying to put as many safeguards in here as possible, and we'll take as many recommendations, or, you know, it's still a working document so that we can change it if need be, so that it takes into account a lot of these concerns. But all of these things will go into some sort of permitting process. It's not an allowed by right use. It's strictly a special permitting process in front of the zoning board of appeals.
Thank you, Jim. Does anybody else like to speak in opposition of the ordinance, please?
Good evening. My name is Mehmet Ali, 226 Mount Hope Street. I want to speak in opposition to the detached unit ordinance as it currently is written. As the president of the Friends of the Forest, we are very active, especially in Pawtuckaville area, to try to promote open space. And as you know, Pawtuckaville is probably the last area in the city that has sizable open space. What this ordinance could really do is ensure the overdevelopment of existing properties in the neighborhood and remove some of the last bits of open space here in the city. So we wanted to encourage you to consider reviewing that ordinance and make the necessary changes. You know, we've been, as a member of the Pawtuckaville Citizens Advisory Committee, we've been very fortunate to have Joe Boyle, James Erickson, George Perwakis working with us on the creation of this document. And I think, I'm not speaking for everyone, but most of us are in agreement with 95% of the document as it stands. But we really feel that this needs some fine-tuning as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Yes, sir. If you come to the microphone, state your name, please.
Bill Lamoureux. I live at 50 Mount Hope Street, and I'm opposed of the condo that attaches down below my unit, because we bought this unit 6 months ago, and we liked the area, and we wanted to keep it as a rural area with nice space and a backyard with woods, and we'd like to keep it that way. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Anybody else opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. I'll start with the board members. Do you have any comments or concern? Joe, I'll start with you tonight, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had an opportunity to read through the ordinance as well, and I had some of the same concerns that were expressed here this evening. Primarily, I don't think that the ordinance should provide for any detached dwellings on the lot as an accessory building. I think that that's a slippery slope that leads us to a point where we're just adding another rental unit on lots of any size, and I think that that should not be allowed. With regard to the in-law apartments per se, I think there is a need for them. I think there is also a need to regulate them and come up with an ordinance to regulate them. But I think we need to be careful as to how it's going to be drafted and implemented. What I'd like to see happen is a meeting with the planning board, the ZBA, the public, along with the zoning subcommittee, which I understand hasn't met yet to review this, to knock around some ideas, and perhaps the solution would lie in that. But just some thoughts off the top of my head, having gone through the ordinance. I think that the in-law dwelling should provide a non-rental housing alternative for immediate family members or caregivers. We have to eliminate the thought of rental right off the bat. The units should be within the main dwelling and have a common wall with a single-family dwelling and not separated by a hall or foyer. And basically define it so there'd be one in-law dwelling per property and entered through the main dwelling unit. Much of that is in this ordinance, but I think it needs some tweaking. I won't belabor all of the thoughts that I have regarding this. I think primarily I'd be interested in giving our recommendation to the council, if they're going to be discussing it tomorrow, that we not pass the ordinance as presented, but that we have further meetings or a meeting of meetings to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Mary, do you have any questions or concerns at this time?
My main concern is the fact that it's down as rental income, so a lot of these single-family homes would end up with a small home in the backyard, and I'm very concerned about that. And I've never seen any accessory dwelling unit or in-law apartment where it does not state first and foremost that this is for family members only, and then it can be switched back to a single-family home at the time that the property changes. So I cannot vote to approve this tonight, but I think it needs further work, but it's a nice first draft.
Thank you. Rich, any comments or concerns?
Yes, just a couple. I concur with what's been said so far, and I do agree with the spirit of this in trying to provide some in-law or caregiver residence within a single-family dwelling, but it does need some additional work. I find the 5,000 square foot limit just too small, and also there's a sentence in here about providing parking, one additional parking spot per unit. There's a number of details in here that need additional work, and I would be in favor of meeting with the zoning subcommittee or any people involved in the drafting of this proposal to get it to a final stage where it is a workable document.
Thank you, Richard. I have a couple of concerns as well. As indicated, I read the draft, and I had a couple of questions. The first thing I did highlight on mine was, as Mr. Fischett indicated, was the rental income. That was the first thing I definitely highlighted on mine. Well, I don't think basically it should be for rental income. As other board members have said, I believe there is a need for in-law apartments in this city, and I think if we fine-tune this, this could be a good zoning ordinance in the future. I do believe it should be for family members as well, caretakers as well, and I think it should be attached to the home. One of the questions I did mention on the very end here, and I did have a discussion with Jim on this the other day when we were talking about some other businesses in hand, is I know in a lot of other cities and towns is when they apply for this accessory use and it's granted, how a lot of other cities and towns do it, I know Methuen does it, once that in-law apartment is granted and that in-law no longer lives in that residence, then that permit process ceases and it's over. But what happens is, in other cities and towns, I know people just go ahead and sell it, or they just let other people come in and they do rent it out. So I know there is a policing mechanism that would have to apply, as Jim mentioned when he first started speaking on this application tonight. And I think maybe it is tough to police it. One thing that I mentioned to Jim, and he said we could discuss it further, is maybe put a time period on some of these matters. So basically, if we put it out for a period, if we allowed it, I don't know, if open it for discussion, 3 or 5 year period, and then that period comes up in time, then they could reapply. And therefore, if the in-law person is still there, they still need it, they can come down, we could look it over and grant them a further extension. Because indicated, my experience from other cities and towns and lawyers who I know have been before the board say they get this one-time approval, and then the people pass papers, they sell it, and people do use it, and it no longer becomes an in-law apartment, it just becomes rental income. So I think that's one of the concerns I have, as well as the other matters that were mentioned here tonight. So I think some way of policing it would be difficult, but I think if we put a time requirement on it and try to make it very less restrictive for the person just to come down and say, we're still here, we still my in-law here, and show us their past approval, and maybe that could be an administrative procedure that could be worked out through DPD, the city council, this planning board, maybe the zoning board of appeals, so they don't have to come back and reapply for that accessory use. But that's one of the concerns I have, the time matter, so it just doesn't slip by the boards. Either family member passes on, or they move out, somebody else moves in, and next thing you know, it does turn into rental income, and it does change all the single-family residence neighborhoods. Basically what Jerry was saying when he first started speaking tonight, I have concerns about that, and basically it's changing the single-family neighborhood if we allow that to do so. So I think the in-law apartment is a valid ordinance that we could get to. I think it has a little ways to go. I don't believe the council's taking us up for a little while. Jim, I know we spoke briefly the other day on the phone. You said not until later in September?
Correct. I believe it's well, maybe I believe they're still on summer schedule in September, so
Okay.
I think it's their first meeting in September that they're proposing to take this up at. However, before that time, we will have a zoning subcommittee meeting. So
Okay.
we can
Thank you.
discuss it further.
So hopefully that's something that we will consider, maybe have a chance to meet with the zoning subcommittee meeting. I know usually most of the planning board members try to attend if their schedule is available, as well as the people from the public. So those are my concerns. I look forward to hopefully sitting down and trying to work this out to make it favorable for all parties concerned. And I think the public did excellent tonight in bringing up some very good issues that really touch the concerns that an in-law apartment is necessary, but to make it safe for all people in the city, that we can fine-tune this to make it a good ordinance for the city of Lowell. And those are my concerns. Thank you. At this point in time, Jim, do we need a motion at this time for approval or denial, or just recommendations to forward this further to the subcommittee meeting, and we can do further discussion and deliberation at that time?
You can do any of the above. You can put forth a recommendation to recommend approval with changes, or you can recommend, it's sort of up to you. You have a wide range of what you want to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to follow up on your point in terms of what happens after the permit is granted, and there's concern after the in-law moves out, perhaps we can consider some sort of a deed restriction or a covenant that would be recorded upon the granting of the permit, so that when the property is sold, that would come up in the title exam, and that would alert people that they have to go down and seek their own permit if that's what they intend to do. So in terms of what we need to do tonight, I think I'd make the motion that we act unfavorably in terms of the presentation that's before us, but we request that we attend a meeting with the joint subcommittee for the zoning.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Anybody want to second the motion? Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Therefore, we will recommend this matter referred to the subcommittee motion. Thank you all for coming down and speaking on behalf. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thank you for your letters. Okay. Next matter we have on the agenda tonight is a special permit, which is 46 Hayes Ave. The Lowell Planning Board reviewed the application of Justin Thibodeau for a special permit needed according to section 5.1.10 of the zoning code in order to construct a house at 46 Hayes Ave. The proposal seeks relief from the minimum lot width required by zoning from the front lot line of the property to the front wall of the structure. The required lot width of this site, located in a traditional neighborhood single-family zoning district, is 46.2 feet. The proposed narrowest width is 37.6 feet, or 8.6 feet less than the required width. So he's requesting that we waive the 8.6 feet for the total lot length width. May we hear the case for the applicant, please? Step up the microphone if you would, sir. State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Justin Tebow. I'm the applicant for the project to construct a single-family home at 46 Hayes Avenue. I've already been before the zoning process. There was a slight error in surveying, which triggered me appearing here tonight. But the variances to put the house in the back also is what triggered the narrowest point, being that the narrowest point is in the front of the lot. If the house was regular zoning, it didn't get pushed back, I would not need a special permit. So one led to the another. Do you have any questions for me? Or?
Anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Okay. I know you gave us a plan. We have a plan in our packet. It shows the site, correct?
Right.
I mean, you gave us a plot plan so we can look at the plan, right? Anything there on the plot plan you want to tell us about, or basically you think it speaks for itself?
I think it pretty much speaks for itself at this point. Like I said, I've already been through the zoning board process, which I know usually you would do after this process. But seeing as how it happened, I've already been through that, so any changes or anything I think have already been figured out.
Okay.
I enclosed all the packet of everything that I sent to the zoning board as well, the petition and all the other things I put together.
We do have a copy that it did go to what you had before the zoning board of appeals. It indicated that the matter was granted with conditions. It appears that you have several signatures in the neighborhood in favor. Is that correct?
I got everybody on the abutters list.
Everybody where?
On the abutters list.
Okay, so, yeah, I think we saw that in the packet. Actually, I believe we did have a chance to look over your proposal before you went to the zoning board of appeals last time, because it came before us for recommending body.
Right.
And I know that was in our packet before, and we did review the plan, so we are a little familiar with the site, because we did see this before we went to the ZBA. But it appears, I know you gave them we have a whole list of all the neighbors and addresses of people who signed on your behalf that are typed out, and we also have a hand one, I believe, which is about 4 pages in length.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak on behalf of the application on 46 Hayes Ave? Anybody else wants to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. Does anybody want to speak in opposition? Anybody in opposition to 46 Hayes Ave? Opposition? Opposition? Hearing none. I'll turn it over to the board members. Joe, you want to start tonight?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recall this property coming before us recently. It's a very odd-shaped lot, and I think the petitioner did a good job in citing the property as it should be cited on the lot. What he's requesting there is really a minimal variance of 8.6 feet, and that's due to the fact that he was required to push the property back off the roadway. So I would have no problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, any questions or concerns?
I was over there today and I looked at this lot. I'm just concerned about the fact that all these subdivisions of these lots, these single-family homes, and they're sticking another home on them. And my only issue is, I think this house may be a little bit too crowded for that street. That's all it's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Rich, any questions or concerns?
Yeah, just one. Both your abutters on each side of this lot are on this petition? Or-
Justin, if you could just come up here while you ask you the question, if you don't mind, that way he can hear you and you can hear him. Thank you.
Both of your abutters on
The
each
abutter
side?
on my, let's see, well, if you're looking at the plan, one of the abutters is my grandmother, the other one would be Charles Fitzpatrick. And he did not sign my petition, but he just basically said that he was not going to
You
show
did
up
not
tonight.
sign it, though?
No.
Is there
Well,
any
he
reason
had
why you didn't sign it?
a list of things that he would like me to do, fences and whatnot, he would like me to change, and, you know, we're working that out, but obviously, you know, he did not come tonight.
We don't have that list either, do we? You did not provide us with that list?
Which list?
The list you just referenced?
The list of abutters? I believe we did.
Changes.
No, the changes that your abutter would like.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
The list of changes that the abutter you're referencing would like.
Oh, no, it was not like changes to the plan, it was just more or less, I would like you to not cut that tree down. I would
All
like
right,
the,
whatever they were, all right.
yeah, and the back fence that we have is not a privacy fence because that lot was not inhabited, so there was no need for it. And at this point, he would like a privacy fence installed now that there'll be a dwelling there and, you know, small things of that nature.
Okay, because after looking at that lot, it does seem a little tight. And what your abutters say would carry a lot of weight with me, so.
Right. Well, actually, all the other abutters spoke at the zoning board meeting in favor of the project. And
All right.
Mr. Charles Fitzpatrick did not speak then, nor in favor, nor in opposition.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've been up there in the past. I remember when it came through the first time, I went up and looked it over. I remember trying to find the paper street to the left there, which I couldn't find when it was on the plan. I know basically, when I looked at it, I couldn't figure out exactly where it was, and the more I looked at it, the more I saw the plan, and the more I saw it on TV before the zoning board of appeals, the more I saw all the neighbors signing off on the concern, looking at the size of the lot. I know you've been in that neighborhood for a long period of time. I know you plan to stay in that neighborhood for a long period of time.
Yes.
And I know you're trying to be a good neighbor in that area. I don't think that this would be detrimental to the neighborhood, and I'm in favor of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in time,
If,
anybody like to make a motion?
Can I make, sorry,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to note quickly that we did sign an A&R plan for the actual, just physical lot. It is a legal buildable lot. One thing that Justin, I may have forgotten to mention is he's trying to, in a way, make the actual house more conforming to the neighborhood. He
Right.
could build a house on that lot as it stands today, but he's trying to set his house back a little bit further from the road because that's where the rest of the houses in the neighborhood are set back to. And therefore, that's the required special permit to allow him to do that. Otherwise, he could, in theory, go pull a building permit tomorrow to build a house.
So he could do it by right as it is now without this approval. He's just trying to make it fit
He's
more
trying
in
to
the
make it
neighborhood.
fit more in the neighborhood.
I'm trying to make
That was
it,
the concerns of
more
the neighborhood.
attractive than what zoning regulations would allow me to put, you know.
So you're trying to be a good neighbor and keep everybody happy up there?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it look good, so, you know,
Especially where you're gonna be living there, and they're gonna be next year, right?
yeah. Well, we've always lived there,
Yeah.
where the Hazes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just wanted to make that
I
known.
appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe. I think you're about to speak. I'm sorry.
I was just going to make that motion, Mr. Chairman, in light of the fact they did receive the variance requested and that the width change that he's proposing is minimal. I would move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Do anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes.
I vote no.
Vivian votes no. So the vote is 3-1 in favor. So that's 3 of us in favor and 1 against, okay? So the matter is approved. Thank you, sir. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's not
Well,
approved.
I'm sorry. It's a special permit, so you do need the 4 votes. I apologize.
Oh, that's right.
All right, so it's not approved. You get the 3 votes, but on the special permit process, you need 4 of all the 4 votes. My mistake. I thought it was a site plan, but it's a special permit.
Okay.
So it was denied as a stand. Sorry for that. Okay. Sorry for the confusion. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck. Next matter is matter of 82 Riverside Street. This is for a site plan and special permit. The Lowell Planning Board will review an application by Merrimack Riverside Realty, LLC, and Artie Frost Jr. for the site plan and special permit review of the development of the property located at 82 Riverside Drive. The proposal includes the construction of 5 new townhouse-style units on a 28,623 square foot lot located in the traditional neighborhood multifamily zoning district. The proposal also includes the conversion of the site's existing 2-family house into a single-family dwelling for a total of 6 units on the site, with associated landscaping and required parking. This project requires site plan approval under Section 11.4, special permit approval under Section 9.4, neighborhood character special permit, and special permit approval under Article 12 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Site plan and special permit applications will be heard concurrently for this project. Can we hear the applicants from Riverside Street, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, Lowell, representing Merrimack Riverside Realty LLC. With me tonight is Artie Foss, who's the developer. Bill McLeod is, where did Bill go? Oh, Bill's over there, the engineer. Dan Corvus, another engineer, and Dermot Kelly, who is our traffic engineer. As the notice stated, we are before you tonight for site plan approval, a special permit for the use, and a special permit based on neighborhood character. The property is located in the TMF Traditional Neighborhood Multifamily District and contains approximately 28,623 square feet. The abutting neighborhood consists of condominiums to the northeast, 2-family homes to the southwest, and a single-family home to the west. I think this board is familiar with this site because we were in front of you back in 2004 when we had an application before the board to maintain an existing 2-family zone and add an additional 7 units. The proposal before you tonight is to convert the existing 2-family home into a single-family home and construct an additional 5 townhouse units on the property for a total of 6 units, which is 3 units less than was before you before. The project as proposed conforms with the pertinent provisions of the City of Lowell zoning ordinance, and I think the plan that we're presenting tonight addresses the issues raised in the board's prior denial. If you recall, the property is also located within the Lowell National Historic Parks Preservation District. Since the denial, my client has been working with the National Park Service as to the design of the project, and the Assistant Superintendent of the park, Peter Acella, has given the project his stamp of approval. I have a copy of a letter which I thought had been submitted, but I will. In addition, my client has been working with staff in the planning department to come up with an appropriate design of the project. I would like to point out, however, that in order to do the historic renovation to the existing home at a great expense, the additional units are necessary. I think we submitted a rendering of the design that we previously submitted, and what we intend to do would be very similar. I think at this point, I'll probably turn turn it over to Bill McLeod to explain the engineering of the project, and we're here to answer any further questions that this board might have.
My name's Bill McLeod from Andover Consultants. We're engineers and surveyors, and we're the project engineer for the project. I think that Jim very succinctly summed up what the project was, and I can answer any technical questions that the board may have. But basically what we propose to do on the site is to remove a garage that's behind the existing two-family structure that's going to be renovated back to a single-family structure, and construct a 5-unit building of townhouses. Each one of the townhouse units would have a garage unit as well as a parking space in front. And we're also going to be providing 3 additional parking spaces for visitor parking. We would also be constructing a 2 parking space area which would service the single-family dwelling, which is what the zoning requirement is for parking for a single-family dwelling. There will be additional impervious cover on site. We are handling that with a subsurface stormwater infiltration system and detention system. Dan Caravos, another engineer who's working on the stormwater drainage, is here if you have any questions regarding stormwater management on site. We will have a 24-foot wide access driveway to get to the rear units as well as the parking space for the single-family home. That 24-foot wide access provides for two-way traffic and provides for ample access for emergency vehicles. The site slopes from the southerly corner up to the northerly corner, and what we are doing is basically taking this building and building it into the slope, working with the topography. There will be some cutting as well as a retaining wall in the back, but we're working with the slope on the site by building the building into the site and providing the garage entrances on the front of the building. There will be screening and landscaping both behind the building and along the perimeter between the site and the single-family and two-family homes that are to the southwest. And we do meet the open space requirements that's in the zoning bylaw. And I can answer any questions that you might have. He's right behind.
Explain the signage that we've provided. I think we've given you a copy of the plan, and he's dealt with Mass Highway to discuss the signage, which will make it a much safer site.
That's Dermot Kelly. Why don't you go over and...
Dermot Kelly, traffic engineer for the project, president of DJK Associates in North Reading. We've met with the Mass Highway Department a few times, and the way the curb cut is designed right now is that there's an existing driveway in advance of the island. We would have the curb cut aligned with the island to force people to have a right-in, right-out movement at the driveway. Meeting with Mass Highway, we developed a signing plan where we would have, coming out of the driveway, there would be a stop sign as well as a one-way sign directing traffic to the right. We would replace the existing signs on the island, as well as the stop sign is on a utility, for a Riverside Street, the stop sign is on a utility pole that's about 20 feet away, and it's really high up, and it's old, and you can't see it. We would remove that and put a stop sign closer to the stop line at the end of the island. And on the island, we would have other signs, such as the graphic sign for no left turns, and the graphic sign warning of the island, as well as one-way signs and no left turn signs.
Thank you. You have anything else, Mr. Flood? Unless
No,
you speak
I-
as an applicant, on behalf of the applicant? No?
I have nothing to add.
At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public. Anybody here like to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody here like to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Jerry Frechette. I live at 80 Dunbar Ave, and I'm the chairman of the Pawtucket Citizens Council. Mr. Chairman, the executive board of the neighborhood group opposes the project that's before you. What is before you this evening is an application for a special permit for neighborhoods character, special neighborhood character special permit. There has been a tremendous amount of effort and work that has gone on over the last several years in this city on the comprehensive master plan, and I'd like to quote from the master plan, Mr. Chairman. Page 41 in the survey that was conducted for the city's master plan, the residents identified neighborhood character as their top priority when selecting a community behind safety and schools. Page 41 again, as a result, protecting and promoting neighborhood character is a core goal of the master plan, a core goal. On page 43, there's photographs of what's acceptable in the older urban neighborhood, which is a mirror image of the homes that are on White Street. On page 46, there's a photograph titled Poorly Conceived Residential Infill, approximately 6 townhouse condos with garages underneath. That project, Mr. Chairman, prompted even members of the board to say if they had had the tool for a special permit, they would not have allowed that to go up at that time. The intent of the neighborhood special permit was to have a project that meets the dimensional requirements, but however, when taken its totality, does not meet the character of the neighborhood. Mr. Chairman, I know Attorney Flood described the characteristic of the neighborhood. What I'd like to present to the board, and I know you've toured the site, I'm sure, but pictures. I went and took pictures of every house from White Street, looped around to Mount Hope and Riverside. If I could just submit that to the board.
Yes, you may, Mr. Fischette. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and I went in order coming from wrapping around White Street and around and then going by the subject property and back onto White Street. The red condos that are on the corner of Mount Hope and Riverside, this has become part of the concern and the application of neighborhood special character. That represents development that the zoning ordinance that is currently in place, there are a lot of items in there that were designed to prevent that type of development in the future. The stacked parking, lack of usable open space, streetscape. The concern in the application of the neighborhood character special permit is how does this body or any permit granting body identify the character. I think it's 24, 26 homes that I have photographs of that, to use a term, the block, going around the block. They're primarily multifamily homes facing the street that their address is on, and single-family homes. And the exception is the condos that I think arguably no one wants to see those building standards applied in today's environment. Under Section 9.4 of the city zoning ordinance titled Neighborhood Character Special Permit, the requirement is the planning board must make a specific finding that such a project will enhance the character of the existing neighborhood, not take away from it, not be an eyesore, must enhance. That is the wording of the special permit in the criteria in which it is to be granted. As I look at this project, Mr. Chairman, part of what I also see and part of what's in the zoning ordinance and we discussed detached units earlier this evening. Part of what brought on the concept of detached units in a multifamily zone was to discourage townhouse condos to be built sideways into a neighborhood. I was at every one of those meetings. What you have before you are 5 townhouse condos, garages underneath, sideways in the neighborhood, basically in the backyards of the homes on White Street. I understand there's going to be screening. I don't know what the exact slope is of that property, Mr. Chairman. It is a very steep slope, and these 5 townhouse condos with garages underneath are at the very apex of that lot, and then it slopes down. You would have to have very mature trees to provide some sort of screening of any relevance. Also, that intersection is dubious at best. There are some serious issues there. They're not the petitioner's fault. That is just a design that creates some problems. I can appreciate the fact that they tried to move the drive to eliminate and discourage people taking a left-hand turn coming over there or cutting across the Pawtucket Boulevard or the VFW highway to pull in there. What it amounts to, and I've seen the scheme that's in place for the signage, almost looks like very inner-city sign pollution, trying to caution people to stop, take a right-hand turn only, one way, and I think that I don't see how that will enhance, at least from an aesthetic standpoint, that intersection. And I do believe that, that potentially there is some danger when you start calculating approximately, it could be anywhere from 32 to 48 car trips that could be generated from this particular development in that area. So I would ask in your deliberation of this petition, Mr. Chairman, and understanding that you are looking at this from the standpoint of site plan review, conceding the fact that it meets some of the dimensional requirements, but ultimately, which is we talked about for years and years, is to have a tool to take a project like this, and if it in its totality doesn't seem to work, and does not, in the words of the 9.4, the planning board must make a specific finding that such a project will enhance the character of the existing neighborhood. I would ask, as submitted, Mr. Chairman, that the board not approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? You state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Henry Marchand. I live at 91 Crawford Street, and I've been a member of the Pawtucketville Citizens Advisory Committee as well. For over 2 years, the Pawtucketville Master Planning CAC has been meeting to build upon the city master plan to develop and to fine-tune the nature and needs of Pawtucketville and to codify them with new zoning proposals. Preserving neighborhood character and enhancing the neighborhood have been priorities and constant discussion points of our committee. Even with a reduction in units and the retention of the existing historic house, I cannot see how a case can be made that this project would enhance the character of the neighborhood under the zoning code section 9.4, as Mr. Frechette has indicated. I have not seen Mr. Arcella's letter. However, I have spoken with Mr. Arcella, who indicated that essentially what the preservation of the historic building does is simply take away their demolition concern. He did not indicate that it was an endorsement of the project as it stands. I would argue that this proposal is the type of the development that clearly does not enhance our neighborhood and what the community, the city council, and this board had in mind in adopting the city's comprehensive master plan and in creating section 9.4. Indeed, it is this type of project that is highlighted as, again, Mr. Frechette noted in the city's master plan as undesirable. A few other points real quick. The lack of maintenance on this property over the past 2 years provides further concern for this project. The single unit is one big house and will likely end up with multiple tenants requiring more parking and generating much more traffic than a single unit as it's being designated. With existing student housing both on and off campus, this project will only add to congestion. The driveway is, as Mr. Flood indicated, pretty much the same as the original proposal. I guess it's more of a road now, which creates some other issues, but as noted from the last meeting, that long driveway from front to back was a concern of this board. Fire department vehicles, I suggest, would be hard-pressed to maneuver in the event of emergency with parked vehicles on either side. The stacked parking along either side, even with a no parking segment, I think on the last slot, would probably be filled. And finally, with the student population and other condos in the area, parking is already a major issue, and so I urge you please to deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Loretta Dume, and I just purchased the house 50 Mount Hope Street, Pawtucket Falls apartment, and I just purchased that 6 months ago. And one of the reasons why I did like that certain property is because I looked in the backyard and I saw that it was like nice trees and I, you know, Lowell, I lived in Lowell all my life, and I never hardly had any trees in the backyard, and nice and quiet. You can hear the, you know, the birds and the squirrels, and it's nice and quiet, and I really appreciated that. So that's one of the reasons, you know, it wouldn't be a good place to have the townhouses, you know, with more traffic and a lot more noise. It's nice the way it is. I mean, why put buildings in the back where it's not going to show? It's nice the way it is now. That's one of the reasons why I get the place.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Darlene Wilson. I also live in the Pawtucket Falls Apartments, 50 Mount Hope, number 2. Loretta and Bill are my neighbors, and they just moved in 6 months ago. My family's been living there for about 7 years now, and also one of the reasons why we moved into that area was because, as Loretta says, you look out your back door, you sit in your dining room, and right next to the slider, and you sit there, and the backyard is, we have a very short backyard, but beyond that is a nice wooded area where you're able to sit and relax and appreciate, you know, the beauty that's back there. We feed the squirrels, we feed the birds. You know, my daughter's here with me today because it concerns her also, because that's the spot that she likes to sit in with her dad, and they feed the birds and they feed the squirrels, and it's just something that they like to do together. One of the concerns I also have with the new units, which is a concern I have with my own units, is I don't see where there would be a place for kids to play, any kids that live in that area. In the units that we live in, basically our front yard is one big parking lot. Kayla's very rarely allowed to go out to the front unless we take her out to a park because there's no place for her to play. The backyard is very narrow and full of poison ivy, and our front yard is a big parking lot, which is dangerous. I come home very late at night. I work at an emergency room in Winchester Hospital. I come home 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes because I work late. And there are still children in my area that are out in the parking lot, and it's very hard to see them, yet they're out playing in the parking lot area as they do all day long. So this, one of the other concerns that I have is there's really no place, if there are families that are going to be moving into this, they have not built in any place for these kids to live that I can see. Maybe they do, but I'm not sure, unless they're playing out by the cars. My other last concern is looking out my bedroom window, and instead of seeing trees in a nice private area, I'm going to be looking in the bedroom window of somebody else that's living right across from me now. And these are the concerns that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Anybody else in opposition? Yes, sir.
Mehmet Ali, 226 Mount Hope Street. I just wanted to speak in opposition to this application. As we've alluded to before, there is a special neighborhood character to Pawtucketville, and with the growth of the neighborhood, you can see just the increased densification is allowing to take away from that special characteristics that we know. And if this is permitted, again, that adds another layer of character onto the neighborhood, which then the adjoining property could then apply for, and the subsequent adjacent property, and abutters, until the whole neighborhood is increasingly densified, and we don't have a special Pawtucketville anymore. So I'd encourage you to go against this application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Anyone else? Nobody else in opposition? Hearing none, I'll turn over to the board members. Joe, we'll start with you again if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're all very familiar with the site, having reviewed prior plans, and perhaps this plan is an improvement because there's less units, but I still have some concerns. One, I remember a large concern was with the traffic and the access and egress to and from the site. It's sort of very close to some difficult intersections there. And I understand the proposal is to put the traffic island and perhaps some signage that would prevent left turn, right turn, so that you can only access from one way and come out the other way, correct?
You can only come out to the right.
Okay,
yes.
as you're leaving the project, you can just turn right, and to enter the project, you can only come in down. Okay. Always creates concern in my mind is what happens to the people that are approaching from the opposite direction. How do they get in? At some point, they need to find a place to pull a U-turn, and it's a difficult spot for that, and I don't know that that's necessarily something you can solve. I know that you've done what you can do. But it's concerned that it would have. Has there been a landscaping plan prepared at this point, do you know?
I think there was a plan originally submitted with the application, and I think there were comments from staff that to work with the DPD staff, and we will do it. Artie will address that.
On the first page of the site plan, we have extensive landscaping that we went over with the planning department, and they designed it actually, the screening and the plants and the landscaping. So the professionals from Jim's office are the people who did that. And the three, I can show you on the site plan.
Okay. All right, but that plan's been submitted to DPD
You have
at
it
this
in front of
point?
you. You have it in front of you.
Okay. In terms of the architectural details, we had a rendering that I think was the older rendering when it was connected to the primary house now.
Correct.
What's the intention now at this point? Did you have a new rendering at this point, or are you just working off of this?
No, we're gonna work off that, and the two beside the house will come out. You'll have the space in between. But that's the plan that was submitted to the historic people on the, I think they wanted that house to be renovated, which I think will be an enhancement to the neighborhood anyways, and the others would kind of tie along with that. So that's how we designed it. And I mean, as everyone talks about the character of the neighborhood, we did what we could to find out what it was. We went to the historic people, we went to staff. I mean, I can show you our pictures too of condos in the neighborhood. What is the character of the neighborhood? I think it's a very good color.
Those are the condos next to it.
That's why we dealt with the departments coming up with this plan. I also read the master plan, and it said that, you know, if there's I thought there was supposed to be a special plan for Pawtuckaville, which I haven't seen. And also, if there was an issue with the site, I mean, I think they could change the zoning. We conform with zoning.
What's your plan for, I'm sorry. Good.
If I could say something.
Yeah.
To the right of us are those big, huge condominiums this lady belongs to. And that's all fully multifamily. We're a multifamily and a single family we want to renovate. And then to the left of us are all two families. So we're more like a transition. That whole neighborhood is two families and townhouses. So we're a mix of that, in my opinion. The focal point will be the renovating the historic house out front. Right now, you can't even tell that's historic. It's white, aluminum. There's no character whatsoever. We're going to redo that whole thing as per the rendering to bring that back. And that's what you'll see from Riverside Street, is you'll see that new historic house. And then we have landscaping in the front of each side of the 24-foot driveway. We have lilacs. If you read the plan, you'll have to the right of the entrance, we have plantings to the left. So if you look up, Where you see the garage now is the start of our new condos. You can barely see. That'll be heavily screened. You'll see the screen in front of the proposed condominiums, which is deep into the site. It's 100 feet back into the site. That's not on top of the road. What's on top of the road is the historic house, which we're going to renovate. And the people along Mount Hope, we're going to have screening, and the cars are going, straight into the site. There's not going to be lights shining towards them. They're going to be in and out towards Riverside. And the other point I'd like to make is we're coming out onto Riverside. We're not exiting onto VFW Highway. We're coming onto Riverside just like the other people in Riverside come out to Riverside. Except we're in a safer spot. We have a stop sign so that people are actually slowing down where we're coming out. The people are slowing down to the stop sign. And that's where we come out. If you like this site walk, I'd be more than happy to show you so you can see for yourself.
I've been there, thank you.
I'd like to show you ourselves with our experts of how it'll work. It's well thought out.
All right, just a couple other points if I could. What's being proposed for trash removal there?
Be private pickup.
Private pickup?
Private pickup, right.
I know there was a concern, just looking back through the notes with the fire department and the length of the driveway. But I think I saw something that they were satisfied with the most recent plan, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes. From Captain Weather, Lieutenant from the Captain.
I have no other comments, thank you.
Mary, any questions or concerns? Thank you, Joe.
Joe asked a couple of questions that I was concerned about, the fire access and exit. And what I'm wondering is if this is approved, is it something we could put in the driveway to somehow turn it so people know they have to go right?
Be signage. I think that was on the plan.
I know, but is there anything else we could do as far as curve the roadway a little bit, the exit of the development? So the cars know they would have to go right?
The problem would be the fire engine coming in coming down Riverside to come in on the right. So she said if you
Some
curve
type
the
of a
roadway so you come out.
berm in the middle.
You can't do that because you need the turn for the fire apparatus to get in.
Because I was over there today looking at it, and I'm concerned about the traffic in the roadway. I know you're working with the highway department,
Right.
and I'm sure that's number one concern, obviously, for building them is safety. But I'm just concerned about making sure that the cars know that they will have to go right. And I don't want any U-turns over the island in the middle. That's my concern right now.
When we met with Mass Highway, they just wanted one more item from us, is the drainage, and we're keeping all the drainage on our site for a 25-year storm. We're not tying into this city drainage system. And that was it. They're all set with this plan. So they've gone through this, the island, the signs, the actual curb cut. We've gone through this and they're all for that.
Do you have any letters or
And-
anything from Mass Highway?
Yes, I do.
Anything we can show us?
And also Ann Barton reviewed this plan, and she's okay with this. She's the sitting traffic engineer for the city of
Right.
Lowell.
I'm concerned about the highway department, so I want to make sure that they're okay with this exiting onto their highway.
I don't think I have it. Yeah.
This was the last letter from them.
Okay.
And they had a laundry list.
Mhm.
So we supplied, this is Peter Sellers' letter.
Yeah.
Which you got. And then this is the drainage issues, but we're about to submit the drainage plans to them,
Okay.
stating that we're keeping all the drainage on our site, so that point becomes moot.
I'll let Richard go now.
Mitch, any questions or concerns, Rich?
Yes, I have a couple. One is regarding the fire department. I don't have documentation here that indicates that they've signed off on this. What I have are a couple of copies of a couple of emails that,
Do you have that, James? You have that email?
It's in the file. We did receive, I believe I provided a copy in the original. Yeah. We've been in discussions with the fire department. The email has been what I've been able to get the fire department to provide. That's what we've been sort of accepting as their sign-off. Just, if I may, Mr. Chairman, a quick note. Additional signage or whatever could be proposed for internally to direct people both on and off the site if need be. Just as a note, we can work with the applicant on that as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I still haven't got an answer to my question.
Rich, what they're saying is we got the email, we didn't get the check off from the fire department. What he did is he sent an email back to Jim indicating that that's in the packet right under the comments from Mr. Erickson from the associate planner.
I have that, and it says, as long as the entrance to the driveway is wide enough
Right.
and rounded at the entrance so fire apparatus can make it in, too much difficulty since the island will make it hard to swing the bat turn.
And we did redesign that, and we have a stamped plan signed by the fire department.
All right, I haven't seen that.
You want to show it to me?
Okay. Not sure that it's in there. All right, if it's stamped by them, I'm not. All right, okay. All right. Then the other issue I have is Mr. Frichette's photographs of the neighborhood speak volumes. I don't think you're really enhancing the character of the neighborhood at all. I think you're detracting from it. You look through here, and even though there are condominium developments there, predominantly they're single and two-family with nice yards, and the fact that you haven't submitted architectural details with your plans, I don't get a good feel for it, for the development. You've submitted a rendering that is an old rendering depicting 7 units and not what you have here, so I don't really get a good feel, but appearances are that it's just not adding anything to the neighborhood.
Well, like I said, we've worked with both the historic, the national park, and with staff to design this, Mr. Lockhart. We're at a loss, and we've got a property that's properly zoned. I think we should be able to use it.
Fine.
And we thought that this project would enhance the area because that's what everybody wanted.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Can I say? On the
Go ahead, Mr. Foss, sure.
On the rendering, takes different details from the neighborhood. You have the bay windows and the roof lines. I wouldn't be adverse to have an architect work with, Chuck Parrott from the Historic Board to take the details from the neighborhood that you'd like to see highlighted. I'm not adverse to that. If that's what you'd like to see, we're willing to work with that. We're going to redo the front building, the focal point from the street, but if you'd like to see more detail from the neighborhood in the rear, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I think it should have been submitted with your plans this evening.
I mean, we can have our architect work with Chuck Parrott. We can make that look Georgian, whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have another comment about this letter. This is about drainage. Do we have anything about traffic from the highway department? Anything at all?
No, nothing that says they approve it, no.
Okay.
But those were their only concerns on the drainage.
Okay.
We've submitted everything to them. We have our traffic engineer here who's met with them. I mean, he could
Okay.
answer those questions if you want to ask him.
We just met with Steve Curran on the drainage, but we wanted to make sure Steve was on board first before we went back to Mass Highway.
Okay.
And everybody's on vacation. Steve's on vacation again this week, so it's been, everybody's on vacation in August.
But my concern is about the roadway. It's not about drainage on this issue right now. We have a letter from Mass Highway about drainage, but do we have a letter at all from Mass Highway that they have no problem with that driveway across from that intersection? That's an issue for me.
The letter you have before you is the second letter we got from Mass Highway. We had an earlier letter that they did have comments about traffic signage, and the plan that I referred to was and this is the second plan that was prepared, and that letter is a comment on this plan, the second plan.
Okay.
So they had some earlier concerns about traffic, pavement markings, and so forth.
And if they had any final comment on the traffic plan that you proposed to them?
Well,
Or-
that letter is it. And
No, this is drainage. This doesn't say anything
I know,
about...
but the earlier letter had drainage and traffic comments. They only give you one letter. One letter comes out of the highway department, because what happens when you send it into the permit department, they circulate it through projects, through traffic, some other departments, right away, for instance. Then it comes back to permits, and they give you one letter. And that's the second letter. Those are the only comments that they have.
Okay, just so you'll know, I did work at the highway department for 10 years, so I understand their permitting process very well.
Okay.
But I just want to see any letter you have about the traffic, because I am concerned about that intersection. I almost got killed there today, so I'm concerned about it. It's an issue for me, and I'm sure the neighbors and anyone who would be moving into that development.
This is a letter that addressed their first comments, which are here. And the way the letter is structured is, I repeated each. Here's the material transmitted. There's a comment and a response. So we went, point by point.
Okay, thank you.
While Mary's looking that over, I guess I'll take my turn. Couple of questions. I'm just reviewing the comments we had in our packet. I know since we've been talking about drainage, we do have a letter in here from the city engineer, Mr. Curran. Do you have a copy of those, Mr. Flood, the dated July 29th? Do you have any problems with those? There was two, he has two recommendations. Either, is there any problem with those? How the volume capacity of the character computed, the chamber, I'm sorry, commuted, and the system, the surcharging. Do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy in my file, yes, and we have Dan Korovas, who's an engineer, who's dealt with Steve Curran, and I think he doesn't have any problem with any of that.
So I guess there's two things, one with the drainage, and the other one was the water service, the 2-inch water service to the unit appears rather large. Why call out for a 2-inch service? If you could address those two issues, I'd appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
My name is Dan Korovas. I'm a civil engineer. We met with Steve Curran last week, and we went over his concerns with the drainage. We've resolved, well, we got direction from him. One of the things he wanted us to do is retain all the runoff from the infiltration system on site, which we've redesigned it and done that. And the question about the 2-inch water service, the units are going to be sprinkled. So we told him that, and he was questioning why there was such a big service rather than 1.25 inches. That's all that was.
Was there any reply to that when he questioned it?
Well, we told him that there were going to be sprinklers on it, and he said, oh, that's probably why.
Okay. Was he satisfied with that?
Yes.
So the conditions that were recommended by Mr. Curran for the engineering, you have no problem with those conditions, Mr. Foss?
Say that again?
You have no problems with the conditions that engineering is recommending?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
I know there's two of them. I'm not going to highlight them. If you, Mr. Flood says you have a copy of them. I think Dan addressed it. He sat down and went over with Mr. Curran. I know this was back in July 29th. I know you indicated Mr. Curran hasn't been available when you met with him last time, but just has a few lists of the engineering things. I want to make sure that you are in concurrence with those matters. No problem with that?
No problem
Okay.
whatsoever, Mr. Lindsay.
All right. I have no further questions. Do any of the board members have any other further questions, any follow-up?
I have no questions.
No? What's the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's a very unique site. It's obviously been before us before. A lot of these issues have been raised before and have been dealt with by the applicant probably to the best of their ability. But in this particular spot, we're charged under 9.4 of the zoning code neighborhood character special permit to make the specific finding, not that the project will be okay, that it will fit in, but that it will enhance, specifically enhance the neighborhood character. At that point, we need to take a hard look at the neighborhood character. I think we heard from the neighborhood, and we certainly heard from the people that were putting together their plans as well. Hadn't heard anyone in favor of the project from the neighborhood. And knowing the neighborhood myself, I would be hard-pressed to find that a condominium project in this area would enhance the neighborhood character. I would not be in favor of this project, and I'd make a motion to deny.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded?
For the record, is that for both the special permit and site plan, or?
Yes. Okay. So the motion has been made to deny for the special permit and the site plan. Rich, are you seconding both, or do you want?
Yes, I'll second both.
Okay. Why don't I back up a little bit here?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with the special permit? Okay, we do it that way, Joe?
Sure.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to deny the special permit. Motion's been made and...
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes with the motion. There's another motion made to deny the site plan. Do we have a second on that matter?
Second.
Motion is made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. Therefore, the project fails on a vote of 4-0. Thank you very much. Traffic's the hardest. I've been up there many times and had it because the house is
Does Jim want those?
Mr. Flood, you have some pictures and letters here. Would you like those? Excuse me, Mr. Flood, you have some exhibits?
Your photographs.
Mass Highway letters?
Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Next matter on our agenda this evening is the site plan and special permit for 511 Moody Street. The Lowell Planning Board will review an applicant by Acre Triangle Community Development Corporation for the site plan and special permit review of a project located at 511 Moody Street, St. Joseph's Apartments. The site is located at the corner of Moody Street and James Street in the urban neighborhood multifamily zoning district, and comprises of 15,000 square feet of land. The proposed development includes the renovation of an existing historic school building into 15 units of affordable housing, ranging in size from 625 to 1,175 square feet. The proposed plan includes parking for 13 vehicles, which accesses to the site off Moody Street. Approval is required for site plan under section 11.4 and special permit under Article 12, Table of Uses for the Lowell zoning ordinance. At this point in time, will we hear the case for the applicant, please? Sure, take your time, Mr. Flood. I know you got some big plans here, so take your time.
He's got it over here. For the record, Mr. Chairman, James Flood representing Acre Triangle Community Development Corp. With me tonight, I have Rich Westcott, who's the engineer, and John Winslow, who is the architect. We are before you tonight for site plan approval and a special permit to allow the building to be used as a multifamily dwelling. As stated in the application, my client is desirous of doing complete historic renovation of the former St. Joseph's Grammar School into 15 affordable units. I have various representatives also with me from my client that could answer any questions as to the renovation. In preparing this plan, my client has worked very closely with the Historic Commission because of the historic credits involved in this renovation, they have to maintain as much of the building as they can, including the inside of the building, and that's how we get the 15 units. As it's designed, we have 4 one-bedroom units, 10 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom units. And I think as the application says, it varies from 625 square feet to 1,175 square feet. In addition, there is a laundry room on the first floor, and there is a room for the collection of trash on the first floor, because the trash will be inside and will be picked up on a weekly basis. The plan as presented provides for 12 regular parking spaces and 1 handicap parking space. We have been in communication with the commercial condominium located up the street in an attempt to obtain additional parking, but as of this point in time, we have not been successful in that endeavor. We are also pursuing other avenues for parking, and hopefully they will become available in the future. But as your traffic engineer stated and as your staff stated, they felt that what we have there should be sufficient for the type of housing that we are proposing for the site. We intend to landscape as best we can on the site. We're willing to work with DPD staff to improve the landscaping. As to the wrought iron fence that was suggested, the question that has arisen as far as that is concerned is the cost. This is an affordable project. We will look at it. If it's cost prohibitive, we won't be able to do it. But we will look at it, and we will improve the neighborhood. There has been talk in the past between my clients and the city as to the improvement of the park next door, and we have no problem in providing lighting on the side of the building to light up the I think it's a basketball court now. It was in the basketball court located directly next door. As I previously stated, the trash will be collected inside and be picked up. We have a request before the Board of Appeals for a variance as to the parking, and that's probably scheduled not the next meeting, but the one after that. But that's basically the project. We have done some studies in the neighborhood as to what could be available on the street, and we have some pictures that would have parking available at night in that area. So I think what I'll turn it over to John. Why don't you go first and explain where'd they go? Oh, explain the project, and then Rich can do the engineering. Okay. And then we'll answer any questions that you might have. There's a microphone on the side of the table.
Yeah? Okay. Look, coming from on top here. Yes, as Attorney Flood pointed out, and as I'm sure you well know, this is a building that is an historic building. It's a typical kind of turn of the early 20th century former grammar school. Incredibly well constructed as in its bones, but the spirit and the flesh is kind of gone as time has gone by, and it needs to be fully restored, which is what the proposal is. Talking off of the site plan, the Moody Street is here. This is the building right here. Coalition for Better Acres office building is right adjacent to it, so it's basically part of the same complex. And as you know, housing North Canal Street Apartments is on the back side of the property. And to the east is a basketball court and I'm going to call it a park, and perhaps it'll be worked on and be made some improvements. Hopefully we understand that CBA is talking with the city about improving the park, and we've put in a bid with the CBA to make sure we see if there's any ways in which these two can maybe be integrated and help each other, which we would certainly advocate for. The issue here tonight is primarily one of parking, as I understand from a zoning point of view. I'll let Westcott address the site issues, but just as an overview, there's 13 parking spaces up front. We've worked very hard in a number of different ways to get as many as we can and still respect the building. There's an existing curb cut which we're not precisely aligning with, and one of the comments in their planning department, very thoughtful memo that they wrote, asked about the curb cuts and the sidewalks. We would have to, this would be built as a new curb cut, and we were intending on maintaining the existing sidewalks and the existing curbing to the extent that we can, although construction realities may be that, a good part of this curb will be rebuilt as part of this project. Again, as Attorney Flood indicated, this is an affordable housing development, and monies are tight. The program is to provide affordable rental housing. Excuse me. The areas of the site will be landscaped on the backside, basically loam and seeded on the sides. On the front, there will be some plantings to protect the residents in the building from the parking. It's quite tight. We've designed the site parking plan so that the cars are not parking directly into the building in respect for the tenants who will be there. That partly drives the way the parking layout works. I don't know if it's the intent of this meeting, how deeply you want to get into the details, but just in general, we've applied for and received a historic tax credit approval. The building will be fully restored. We are, because of that, there'll be certain things that we need to do and hoops we need to jump through in order to protect that. The issues of windows and how you replicate historic window details, how you provide meet energy requirements and yet retain the existing building. We will be building an interior wall inside of the entire building, a perimeter wall that will be insulated. We will be putting in an elevator. It will be an elevator building. We will be putting in a trash room on the first floor with trash chutes that connect to the floors so that the tenants can have more immediate access to that. And there will be a laundry kind of community space on the first floor. As a handicap accessibility requires, the first floor needs to be fully on grade. The building is a little unusual in that the first floor of the building is right now currently about 3.5 feet below the front grade, which has given us some difficulties, but we will be building a new floor over that first floor. The ceiling heights are on the order of 13 or 14 feet. They're very tall ceilings. We'll be raising the first floor up somewhat, but the entry itself will be at the existing grade, and the community space will be at the existing grade. I'm not going to go through all the notes in the drawings, but except to say it's going to be a full renovation and restoration of the building itself. I'm sure you can't see this from afar, but just as a general layout, the building actually does lend itself quite well to housing. Our firm specializes in housing. We do a lot of housing work, and one of the challenges here was not really, will this building work? Because it clearly does. It was just how to do it and how to meet all the historic requirements and the programmatic requirements. But just as a overview, the building is basically a 4 square, so it's four units per floor on the upper floors. As I understand it, this was a typical, I think it was a Catholic school where the boys and the girls were separate. And so the building was divided right down the middle with a real strong retaining wall that no boys or girls could possibly pass through. So and the building has a double entry system. There's an entry well on this side, entry well on this side, and I don't know which was the boys and which was the girls, but you know they each had their side. We've retained both of those entries, although the entry on the right made more sense as the dominant entry. So the building enters here, and again it's a 4-square. These are the upper floors. There's a 1-bedroom and 3 2-bedrooms per floor. That's how it breaks down. The first floor is a little different in that it has 2 1-bedroom units on the front of the building and a 3-bedroom unit on the back. And one of the 1-bedroom units on the front is fully handicap accessible. So we had to push the design somewhat to make that happen, and we're still, frankly, futzing with that a little bit, but that is the overall concept. So architecturally, that's what we're doing. It's a handsome building. We think it's worth restoring. Very solid building, and we think this is a very good proposed use for it. I think I'd like to turn over to Rich Westcott now to talk about site issues.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Richard Westcott, site civil engineer. Talking about the site just briefly, as you probably know, right now it's just about entirely paved, and what we'll be doing is completely rebuilding the front of the site, in fact the whole site around the whole building, and creating new paving to create the parking lot, new walkway areas, and the remaining planted. And the net result with no change in drainage is actually less runoff from the site, just simply due to the reduction in impervious surfaces. But in addition, what we've done, which shows up on your drainage plan, is put in from the catch basins what is called a storm scepter, or a water quality inlet that filters out oils and particulates, and then put in underground chambers to infiltrate some of the runoff into the underground soil, and thereby reduce the load on the municipal drain system, which right now is the only thing draining the entire area. So to the extent that we can percolate some of the runoff into the soil, will be significantly improving the situation. I know the city engineer has asked that we do test pits to, at some point, confirm that they will actually eventually drain. And if the board chose to put a condition like that in, we would have no objection to that. Otherwise, of course, the building has existing utilities, sewer and water, and to the extent that those are sound, we would reuse them. We would need to bring a new water line in, certainly for fire. The existing line wouldn't be adequate for sprinkler system. We would bring that in. And I know that the water department has told us they don't really know exactly where the water main is, and we don't either. But we know there's one out there, and there's fire hydrants on the other side of Moody Street. And certainly that dig safe, if no one else will tell us where that is, and we'll work out the details of connection details to whatever the requirements of the water department are. I don't, there was, the landscaping plan is, I think, relatively heavily landscaped, quite frankly. For the amount of area there is, we have to remember that there were windows right at the ground floor level in this building, so we can't just put up a row of foundation planting like you might usually see. We have to keep those windows open, of course. I'm sure the applicant would love to go further and rebuild the sidewalk on their frontage and put in a wrought iron railing. It would certainly enhance the site, but again, that's going to be very much a cost issue. This sidewalk is in, I would call it fair to poor condition. It's not completely deteriorated, but it's certainly not in great shape either. But that could be a fairly expensive process to reset all that curb and redo that sidewalk. And there's signs and so forth out there too. So that might be a bit to chew, although we certainly will have to redo it in the area that we're disturbing as is. So unless there's questions, I think I've probably hit the high points.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Laura Buxbaum. I'm the executive director of the Coalition for a Better Acre, which is the sponsor of Acre Triangle CDC, the applicant entity. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about who's going to be living in these apartments and how that impacts the parking issue, as well as just how it'll impact the neighborhood. Of the 15 apartments, the two bedroom and 3 bedroom apartments are all family apartments. They will be rented. They're all affordable, but they'll be rented to families at varying levels of income. So some of them may be quite low income, and others may be close to sort of low market as the tax credit rents that we'll be using. So it'll be a healthy mix for the neighborhood. Of the 1 bedrooms, 1 will be handicapped accessible, and probably be for an individual or a couple. And 2 of the others are going to be designated for clients of the Department of Mental Health, who will be very low income and will very likely not have cars. Most of the clients of DMH do not have cars, and so we're not going to stipulate that. If someone has a car, of course, they're going to do that. But we think it's likely that that won't be an issue for them. In addition, we may be pursuing additional funding for one of the other 1 bedrooms, which would also bring in a resident who would be very, very low income and would probably not need a car. Our mission is to serve people of all levels of need, but as often as we can. If we can serve people at very low income, we do that, and many of those folks, frankly, can't afford cars. Something else about the cars that I am not bringing to mind right now, but there was something else about the cars. But anyway, we think that this is going to be a really wonderful addition to the neighborhood, and certainly an improvement over what's there now. We've owned this building for over 10 years, and I'm frankly a little bit ashamed that it's a blight on the neighborhood now, and we hope to do as beautiful a job as CBA did with the former St. Joseph's Convent. I know that was the other thing I wanted to say, that we were fortunate to take part in Doors Open Lowell, whenever that was, last spring, and we had about 25 nuns who had formerly lived in the convent, and many of them had taught at the school or been principal. There were a couple of former principals of the school, and I'm sorry that they're not here tonight, but they were absolutely thrilled that we're planning to renovate this school, and they felt that this was a continuation of the mission that they had originally established. Actually, we should have brought that photograph, because they gave us they gave us a photograph of a very old photograph of some kind of scary-looking nuns from the 30s with an inscription that congratulated us on continuing the good work that they do. So anyway,
I just have one more point that I forgot to mention in my presentation. As far as the parking concerned, it's our intention to institute a permit system where there would be 1 permit to each unit, and you would need a permit to park in that lot. So it'd be on a first-come, first-served basis. So that's how we're going to try to regulate that parking.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else on behalf of the applicant who wants to speak on your behalf, Mr. Flood, tonight, before I turn it over to the public? Mr. Flood, do you have anybody else that wants to speak before we turn it over to the public? Okay, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public. Anybody like to speak in favor at this point in time?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, my name is Mark Coleman. I live at 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Even though I'm not a resident of the area, I am a member of the CBA. I believe that this is a good use for a vacant building, and it will preserve the historic structure of the building. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anybody else like to speak in favor? Yes.
I have been involved with this since the beginning.
Excuse me, just tell your name for the address, please.
My name's Heidi McCurtis. I live at 193 Moody.
Thank you.
I've been involved with this since the beginning. And we went to the community to get the community's opinion of what we should do with this building. And the community is the one who says that it should be for affordable housing. And don't forget about the elderly people and the one bedrooms for the handicapped people. So I do want to make sure that you know that the community is the one who chooses. It's not CBA, it's the residents that lives around this area who really came out and spoke. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to the board members. Joe, you want to go first again?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I applaud you for the reuse of this historic building. I think that's wonderful. Just a couple of comments as we're zipping through the notes a little bit. The city engineer had talked about the infiltration system, and I think I heard you say that you agreed to put in some test pits designed to mitigate 10-year stormwater volume. Is that okay?
That's correct. We agree with the engineer's comments.
There was a comment from the water utility that there was no information on the plans concerning this. It must be too old.
Well, yeah, and as the engineer said, he doesn't know where they are, but there's got to be someone in the city that
You'll
has
find
it,
them.
because did you go to that school, Joe?
No, but
But they had to have water there at some point in time, but no one has the information.
I was there, Mr. Flynn.
Huh?
I was there.
Did you go there?
he's the reason they put the wall up between the boys and the girls.
Big wall.
So you know, there was water there then, right? But no one knows where the service comes in.
Right.
So we'll, if we can't find it, we'll bring a new service in.
And in terms of the parking, even though there's obviously minimal parking there, we do have a statement from our traffic engineer that they think that it's suitable for this type of a project, but he does question if there's any parking issues Lot 12A should be considered. Is that the one you were talking about trying to get some access to? When they refer to 12A, that's...
I don't know what...
It must be the lot on this plan. That's somebody else's lot.
I think that's the playground. I think those discussions are very preliminary, and we're working with the city on some redesign, but there is some talk of if we can move things around to create maybe a couple of spaces there.
And we're still working with the condo up the street, hopefully, because there's no one there at night at all.
If I can comment briefly, Mr. Chairman, on that comment as well. The playground, we're in discussions with the CBA on redeveloping, and obviously no design has really been formalized right now. Whether or not parking can be incorporated into that design will sort of be determined by what we can do on the site itself. I believe the city and the traffic engineer, I spoke with him about that comment, was just regarding the parking lot on the other side of the playground. I thought that was relatively open. I'm not sure if it's owned by somebody, by the CBA, or somebody affiliated with the CBA.
Yeah, that's the North Canal Apartments, which
Right.
is co-owned by CBA and the tenants. We have thought about approaching the North Canal Housing Trust to see whether maybe 2 spaces. Parking is pretty tight at North Canal, but not so much at that end. But we haven't had those discussions with the tenants yet, and we wouldn't want to make a commitment, but it is something that we would certainly consider and discuss with the tenants with whom we own the North Canal Apartments.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That lot that's labeled 12A looks to access those units behind. And the trash will be self-contained within the building, I think you mentioned. That's correct? Okay. All right, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Me, have any?
I have no questions. I think most of them have been answered. I think it's a great project, and I applaud the CBA for this development.
Mitch, any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. It is a nice project, and it's a nice building, too. How do you propose to handle the mail delivery?
There'll be a spot inside the door where they'll have separate slots for each unit.
It'll be a central unit?
Yes, central
for the
location,
building.
right.
Okay. The only other comment I have is where this print says existing basketball court, that's the park that's referenced in our material here. And you're in a certain stage of, you're working with the city on redeveloping that? How far along is that? Is that going to be a reality?
Can you answer that?
I can comment on that if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. We're in preliminary discussions right now about that site itself. I believe it's owned by the Lowell House. Well, it's owned by the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, the Redevelopment Authority owns that site. So it's an entity of the city, I believe, and we're in discussions with the CBA to put forth for grant funding in the next spring to get some grant funding to redevelop that site. And we're still working out how that partnership would work, whether it's the city with the CBA working on the management of the site after construction, after redevelopment, or whether the CBA could take control of the site just to keep the maintenance of the site, even though it'd still be city-owned property. Also to note for that, I did make a comment regarding possible fencing along the site itself and maybe redevelopment of the sidewalk. If the funds don't work, we could try to work that into the grant funding for the park itself, something that the board may want to be aware of for future discussions. These details we haven't quite worked out yet, but we are definitely committed to redeveloping that site. We realize that it's a site that needs to be redeveloped, and it's a site of relative mischief, I guess, at night from what we hear from the group. So we would be definitely interested in working on a partnership for that site. Again, that's also why we would request from the applicant to provide the lighting towards the top of the building. Just even in the redevelopment of the site itself, if the park project isn't funded right away, or if it's something that a couple of years down the road we have to complete, at least some lighting there at night. Nothing too crazy, nothing to allow people to play basketball, but just some general flood lighting to prevent some of the mischief would be something that we would look from the applicant.
For safety purposes, there's been a lot of cooperation between the CBA and the city in this area.
Yeah, okay, I just think the development of that lot would really enhance the development of the building in terms of maybe potential parking and certainly much needed recreational space. So I just,
that discussion's been going on for a while on the park. Yeah, so hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah,
right.
Good. Hope it does. All I have, Mr. Chairman.
Part of the discussion from the city end anyway is the grant funding time frame. This community development block grant funding, which is what I believe we're thinking of using or applying for, which has to go through an approval process, and you have to apply for the funding itself. I believe the time frame for that is early spring, sometime in March, where the deadline is to apply for that funding. So there's a lot of details that can be hashed out before that time. It seems like we have plenty of time for that process, and plus after that process and after the funding is possibly issued, I can't guarantee that funding will be issued this first time around. But if and when the funding is provided, there is still time for even further planning on just design details of the site itself.
Thank you, Jim. I'm in favor of the project. I do remember, as indicated, I did go there a long time ago. I used to go on Saturday mornings for my SRA reading classes. That's what I used to hold them on Saturday mornings. I remember the building very clearly. It's been a long time. And I will admit, it wasn't in the 1930s, though. It was a little...
Oh, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah, it was a little more recent than that, but it was a ways back. I know the concern would be the parking, but I also know up there in that neighborhood, and with the income you're going to be taking in, you're not going to really have accessible to all that many parking sites. I know you're indicating, talking about low-income housing, so what's the ability to people to own cars on that site? That was the first thing when I obviously looked at the site. I think that jumps out at everybody, because you look at how many units and parking. That's always a big issue whenever you come before this board or anywhere else in the future, any other boards in the city, I should say. But I think up on that site, I think hopefully you can get your variance. I think it should work, as indicated. I know it's an old building. I don't know how old it is. Any idea how old it is, Mr. Flood?
No idea. There's a number on it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I think it would be an improvement for the area. I think it'd be an enhancement. I think we definitely need the affordability housing up in that area. I think basically as long as we can go along with the recommendations by staff and the city engineer, I think it's a workable project. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you go any further, I don't know whether you gave any opportunity to anyone in opposition to speak, and I think maybe
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
should do that. I don't think there's anybody here, but I think
I thought
you should do
okay,
that.
I apologize if I
No, but I think
I
to
apologize
make
if I
it,
overstepped that.
Yeah.
Anybody here wants to speak in opposition? In opposition? If I didn't say that earlier, I apologize. In opposition? Hearing none, Mr. Flood, do you want to speak in opposition?
no, but I just wanted to make sure that.
For the record that we gave you the opportunity.
Can't say that you didn't.
You don't want us on record for not letting people speak at my hearings?
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna say that.
That's quite all right. If I missed that, I thank you for correcting me on that. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any motion by the board members.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval of site plan and special permit for this project.
The motion on the floor, anybody want to second that motion?
Second.
I was
Joe,
going to
discussion?
add, perhaps for discussion, if we could add a couple of conditions. One, I think that they agreed that the engineer will do some test pits as requested by the city engineer, and that some lighting be provided from the top of the building just for safety issues. If we could add those as conditions.
Is that acceptable,
Yes,
Rich,
certainly, yeah.
to your motion? Mary, is that acceptable to your second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? So that motion was a joint motion for the special permit and the site plan. That was correct, Rich?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And the motion was made and seconded. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. The project passes 4-0. Thank you very much. and
Thank
good
you
luck.
very much.
Yeah, that's a nice project.
It's a great building. That's all right.
Tommy, did you really go there? Did you really go there? Did you? Yeah. No kidding.
We used to work our way up.
Color-coded book fest. I think I'm still in orange.
Barbara Palermo, let's say that's what.
Like the word card.
Right.
That was withdrawn.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh. That's interesting. That's about the fourth time I've seen that.
Yeah.
Good.
We took care of that. You weren't here yet, so we moved it to the front to get rid of it.
Good night. Thank you.
Want to take a little break?
Sure. Gonna take a 2-minute recess if we could, please.
Good idea.
While we're doing that, just to let people know the next project will be the 205, 207 Market Street. We're gonna take a 2-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, we're back on record. That completes our public hearings for this evening. Now we're going to move on to our section where we have new businesses. Tonight we have a pre-application session. The following individual has requested for the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing as noted below. The address is 205-207 Market Street. The applicant, Stavros Pangiotopoulos, Butler Ventures, LLC, project construction of commercial, retail, and residential complex. Zoning is downtown mixed use. Required review is for site plan and special permit. Can we hear the case for the applicants, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. My name is Timothy Irvin from Chelmsford, Massachusetts, the firm of Gallant & Irvin, and I represent the owner of the property, Mr. Stavros Teddy Pangiotopoulos. The property is 205-207 Market Street. It's the Athenian Corner Restaurant, and what we have in front of you tonight is a conceptual plan which shows a proposed project to expand the existing restaurant that exists on the property, essentially rehab that existing facility, expand the overall gross floor area of the restaurant, update it, bring it into compliance. We have met with the Historic District Commission, also have met with the Division of Planning and Development, and have used their input in the conceptual plan that we've submitted to you tonight to try and address what were some of their concerns with this project as it presently exists, and to try to address and present to this board a project that adopts their concerns and really revitalizes and enhances this district. What we intend to do here would be the expansion of the existing restaurant, in addition of a 2,000 square foot separate retail space on the first floor with a rehab of the existing structure. There are residential units that could be located above, to expand it to 21 residential units, and this is in the downtown mixed-use district. We've submitted for your consideration a conceptual plan which shows the facade of the building, the proposed rehab and extension of the building, and we've also shown you details that would show what the expansion of the existing restaurant would entail, where the new retail space would be located, as well as a description of the units, a typical floor plan for the 3 levels of residential units that are planned to be constructed above the existing retail space and what would be the new retail space. The Athenian Corner Restaurant, I'm sure many of you know, has been there since 1974. The property is long-standing. The family has got roots in the city of Lowell. This is a local project looking to really revitalize this property. Their present structure, I don't know if you're aware, the bathrooms are located on the 2nd floor of the structure, which has been a bone of contention with the Board of Health, and the outside facade is not in keeping with the historic nature of the district, and we intend to address all of those issues with the current revitalization project that we have for the board's consideration. So what we've done is what we'd like to do is get the board's input, its questions, concerns with what we've proposed conceptually, and then be able to come back in front of you at some point with either a preliminary or definitive plan for your consideration to obtain a site plan and special permit to go ahead and rehab the existing structure and build out the new retail and residential space.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else want to speak with you, or just yourself, sir? Anybody else?
Mr. Polton from ERA Morrison was involved in the project.
Sure.
I'd like to speak.
If you'd like to speak, sir, go right ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for letting us come here with this preliminary plan. I'm Sam Polton. I'm a managing partner and one of the owners of ERA Morrison Real Estate. We have 12 real estate offices throughout the Merrimack Valley, and we've recently moved our corporate headquarters to 61 Market Street, the old Burke's department store. We are very excited about Lowell. We've come to Lowell. We own the first floor of 61 Market Street, and we have entered into, I think, a very unique and advantageous partnership with Teddy and his family. The family will continue to own the restaurant after the expansion takes place, and Butler Ventures will then build these condominiums and sell them. And our marketing plan is to bring more people into the downtown that will eat in the restaurants, the Athenian Corner and the others. We got some great restaurants within walking distance. And bring their friends to eat in restaurants, go to stores, spend money, and continue the revitalization of Lowell. The plans that we're using for the condos are very similar to what we used in the Burke building. High ceilings with beams, brick walls, granite countertops, whirlpool tubs. But most importantly, our pricing will be below $300,000. We've had extensive discussions with everybody we can think of in the city, and it seems that the target audience, if you will, are folks that want to spend between $230,000 and $299,000 and get luxury. And that's what we're going to do. Granite countertops, as I said, and whirlpool tubs, things like this. Teddy is here showing the support of the family. And I'm sure if you have any questions of him, he'll speak to that. But when this is all over, we're going to have a revitalized and reborn Athenian Corner. And we're going to have a revitalized corner. I think that's the most important thing. We will have something that as you turn down Market Street will immediately let folks know that they're coming into a revitalized Mill City that's in its second heyday. And that's our proposal, to do something good for the restaurant, do something good for the city of Lowell, bring more people in to enjoy it. Teddy, did you have a word or two to say? Or?
I just wanted to say that I'm here representing my father, Stavros Panagitopoulos. I'm extremely proud of the work we've done in keeping a restaurant going for 32 years through the good and bad in Lowell. And we believe in Lowell. I know a lot of people out there don't, but it is not our intention to leave the city. We've had plenty of offers to take that piece of property. It's a pretty valuable property on a corner. There's a vacant parking lot there now. And we, in discussing it with my father, my sister, and the entire family, it is our wish that we leave something behind to the city, something that can continue my father's legacy. He's worked awful hard in that place. We all have. And rather than just, take the money and run and allow whoever to go in there and do something, we decided to get together with Sam and the other partners and keep the restaurant going. We want to update it, make it a 21st century restaurant. As Sam mentioned, bringing the restrooms downstairs, updating the entire look of it. Kind of our motto will be a old world values in a new world setting, but it is our wish to continue moving forward and to remain a part of the community in Lowell. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else you want to add before I turn it?
We would have nothing further for the board.
Anybody else here want to speak on in regards to this project? Nobody else here want to speak on the project? Okay. Any of the board members have any comments or concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, if I could. So the restaurant itself will stay and be expanded.
Correct.
And right now, how high is that building?
4 stories.
It's 4 stories now.
With the abandoned parking lot next to it, and the intention is to extend the width and the height of the building and keep it at the 4
So the
stories.
height will be the same, extended into what is the parking lot now?
Correct, to the corner. And that was with consultation with the Historic District Commission, because when you come down Shattuck Street, they didn't want to see an open parking lot. They wanted us to extend the structure to the end so that it would, in keeping with the historic nature of the district.
Okay. What are you looking at for parking?
We have been in discussions with the Division of Planning and Development about securing some spots, either meter spots along the street or in the Market Street garage, which is there, and we are in negotiations with them. We're looking for between 30 and 35 parking spots. They're fully backing our project. We're working with them, and we fully intend to keep working with them to address and remediate any parking issues that would be down there. We understand that they exist. If you look at the conceptual plan as drawn now, there would be 3 existing surface spaces, and then we would be looking somewhere along Market Street for meter spots or to obtain spaces for the condominium unit owners in the development. It's in the,
How
in the
far
garage.
out are you from the Market Street garage?
Probably almost right across the street.
We're directly across the street.
Right.
Diagonally across the street from the garage.
Right.
Pretty close.
I know some of the units downtown secure spaces in that garage as well. You've checked the spaces available to be...
Right. We've talked with the Division of Planning and Development, and they've told us that they're looking into it to see how they can accommodate the parking requests that we would have for this type of use.
Right.
But everybody that came away from that meeting were fairly confident that we would be able to address the parking issue.
I'm sure that's what everyone's working on, because you've got you're going to maintain the restaurant, you're going to have a new restaurant, a different entity, and some retail as well, so parking will be at a premium.
Correct.
Let's hope, right? So,
That's the goal.
Right, exactly, so. No, that's the only comments I have. It's a pretty exciting project. If you can find where you're going to be parking these people, that'd be excellent. Thank you.
If I may comment just briefly from the DPD perspective of
Sure,
the
Jim, go
parking.
ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we did meet with the applicant. We were just in discussions about how to handle some of the parking. We know that there's also a number of elderly people that like to frequent the Athenian Corner, and we're willing to work with the parking department and do some changes as to the street parking that's around there, whether provide maybe some sort of valet area so that they can pull up and then somebody from the Athenian can park the car in the garage, or provide more handicap spacing, however it works out. Obviously, we've been in discussions also with the parking department, and it's our understanding that until we have the final figures as to how many parking spaces are required for the lot, there should be plenty of parking in the market parking garage there, Market Street parking garage. So I just want to show you, let you know of the DPD side of the discussion as well.
Thank you. Sure. The only comments I had basically is what been addressed already when I first looked at it would be the parking. I have no problem if you can pick up the parking down in the garages. However, I think if you can try to get some handicap spots close on your site, I mean, obviously that's going to speak well for your clientele. Yes. I mean, you have people there who come there now that all of a sudden they don't have it. I know
That's one
a family tradition, you're going to say, where'd they go? You know, so if you have to pick up some parking, I would encourage really to try to address the handicap parking. Because people who have the accessibility to walk down the street, I don't think people mind walking when they're capable of doing so, but the ones who can't, I think if you have to try to put parking on site, and also with depending on the same thing with your units upstairs, if you have any handicap accessibility.
That was our main concern as a restaurant. We were in favor of keeping some of the existing land as parking, and we were led to believe that the preference of the historic board and the planning and development is that it not be left as an open lot. They would prefer to develop. So we are working on whatever alternative. And, we have a few plans that we would put into place.
Okay. That'd be my major concern. If you can work out the parking, I think it'd be a good project. Thank you. Maybe, Rich, any comments?
The only comment I have is basically what's already been addressed, and that's the parking, and that's going to be handled. And I don't think there's anyone in Lowell who hasn't eaten at the Athenian Corner. And I appreciate a restaurant family more than anyone at this table, so good luck and Godspeed.
Just one observation. I'm having a hard time figuring out how you get deliveries here, and if you're going to expand this, how do you handle deliveries? I know you got doors up there, new kitchen prep area deliveries, but is there loading a dock or anything to feed this whole thing?
Yeah, one of the nice things about the way the property is sitting on the corner, it also has the access to that alleyway.
Right, see, I can't
and the plan now is, as we expand the kitchen, you'll notice that where we've left the parking spaces is adjacent to that alleyway. And the reason we're only sure of 3 is the rest of that area is for precisely that, a dumpster, delivery. The goal is to have minimal disruption on Market Street, to have the restaurant just there as a restaurant for people to come in and eat. We don't want deliveries to impede things, and we don't even want the construction to impede things. Even the way we're going to build is going to be to
So there's
keep
enough
that to
room
a
there for
minimum.
a small truck.
So there's plenty of space in the back there. Just one thing while I'm up that we're most concerned about, the restaurant is driving this development train, and we're prepared to do whatever is necessary to have minimal disruption to the restaurant. And which is why we're here tonight and why we're so anxious to speak with anyone who wants to guide us in the way to get this done as expeditiously as possible. We're hoping to only shut the restaurant down for 6 weeks. And the sooner we know the schedule, the sooner Teddy and his family can plan for that shutdown. So you will find us very amenable to suggestions that will make this a better project.
Thank you. Anything further?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are our comments and concerns. We look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you very much.
Roger.
Sure, take it. Yeah. He's from... Yeah. He's under, residence first. Yeah. Next matter will be, we'll take the update on the Julian Steel site. There are Residents First Development Corporation will discuss updates of Julian Steel development site. That must be you. Just to let you know, I was up there a couple of weeks ago myself, and I ran into this gentleman. I stopped, went up to the trailer, and asked if I could take a little ride around. He told me, go ahead and take a look, and he gave me a little update of what was going on. So go ahead, please, sir.
My name is Peter Rogers, and I represent the Residents First Development Corporation, and I'm here tonight to request permission to refile my subdivision plan with the changes on the easements that I submitted to James about 3 weeks ago. I'd just like to stress at this time that there were no lot lines moved or changed in any way. It only involves, some guardrail easements and drainage easements.
Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? I mean, you want to address us on that?
I just wanted to provide just further comment. The packet of plans are, so thick, so I didn't provide copies for the board. I apologize.
But they're available at DPD?
They're available at DPD.
Okay.
They're in my office. They're very minor changes. As Mr. Rogers noted, there were no changes in lot lines, and the previous plan that you had seen, I believe it was almost a year ago now, maybe last November or December, that showed really the bulk of the major changes from the, where we had to rework some of the roadways and what have you. None of that has really changed. This is strictly the easements around the site itself. Those are available in my office if you have any further questions.
Okay. So on behalf of DPD, are you in favor of his proposal? I mean, his adjustments, I should say?
Yes, we've reviewed them and they look fine. We're in favor of the
Okay.
proposed changes that they're doing to the easements.
Thank you, Jim. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns?
No questions.
No? No. This would require a vote, correct?
Yeah. If I could just get a vote from the board just
Sure.
to accept those changes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request for administrative adjustment on the plan to provide for the new drainage design.
Motion has been made. Anyone second that motion?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. How you coming along up there since, I've been up there last month, pretty good? I know you had a lot of construction going there when I was there.
Yep, so far we've sold 9 of the 14.
I think when I was up there, it was right after your first or second open house that was advertised in the paper. That's when I saw you on site. I think I was up like the following Monday, I think it was, or right after you guys just had your first open house, and you said you had some, a lot of tentative buyers looking there.
Yep.
And you had some, so that worked out well?
Yep, so far, keep our fingers crossed, but...
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Going back to the agenda, we have an administrative adjustment on 975 Varnum Ave, Duville Senior Center. The board will discuss proposed minor changes to the parking layout of the development project at the Duville Senior Center site located at 975 Varnum Ave. The board approved this project on June 5, 2006. State your name for the record, please.
James Erickson, member of DPD staff. I'm just here to present the changes to the plan that were discussed with the applicant for this project. It's the proposal that was approved by the board as noted back in June. for the Duville Manor project out there. As you can see from the front page, which is marked as the original proposal, there are 2 landscaped islands to the left portion of the site that shows a certain traffic pattern whereby you drive around in between possibly both of them. What they did when they got out to the site itself, they noticed that there were some really nice trees out there, and they really wanted to keep a lot of the trees on site as possible. So they reworked the parking plan, which is what is shown on the second page. And it sort of provides more of a horseshoe-shaped parking layout to that left portion. What they're going to be doing is, and I'll come up in a second to show you a little bit further. They're flopping part of the parking spaces from having the landscape portion on the left side of the parking to the right side of the parking. And if you notice on the right-hand side of the actual parking area, which is closest to the Kelly Circle, they reworked some of the landscaped islands to incorporate some of the trees that they wanted to keep, essentially. Further, they had to, because of the way they reworked the site, they had to add some parking spaces along the sort of large field that is out there when you are at the Duville Manor site.
Thanks. James?
This is the proposal layout.
Yeah. And then I'm going to change it to the request to change it to this.
Yeah, they're just swapping.
Actually, the second one looks a little smoother. I mean, the transition.
Yeah,
The driving cycle.
It does,
As many
it's
of the
better.
trees as you can see as possible. I guess that was a really nice
They have a big site up there, they got plenty of parking, they got plenty of room to maneuver. And I know when it came before us, the only issue we had was the entranceway, and we pretty much adequately addressed that. That was the only issues that the neighborhood association had, and some of the speakers of that evening. Besides that, they were all in favor of the project, and we did address their concerns. So this is a minor adjustment for just the traffic layout to enhance the project by keeping more trees on the site, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And just to note, we are working towards the final product of the entrance to the site. We're working with them on how they're going to landscape that site, and we're able to do a couple very minor changes to the Kelly Circle entrance, just switching some of the signage around, just so that it's a little less.
Kelly Circle.
Yeah. We're just going to work with them to switch the signage from one side of the entrance to the other, and then.
So it's fully defined on how to enter the SI
Exactly.
to that other street. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. So this requires a motion. We have a motion, I'm sorry?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, this is a minor adjustment, therefore we could do an administrative adjustment if need be. What's the request of the board?
Motion to approve?
Motion's made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote yes.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so 3 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay, moving along. We're getting down to old business. We have notices from abutting towns. Any questions or concerns for any board members on the notices we received from other cities and towns? None? Okay.
If I may interject, sorry, briefly,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. I put on the agenda a discussion about the planning board application forms.
Sure.
I just wanted to briefly go over with the board what I was thinking with that agenda item. The forms that we use for basically the applications that you see tonight for them to actually apply for a special permit, site plan review, repetitive petition, what have you, they haven't been updated in a couple of years now. And I just want to keep you informed that I'm planning on providing and completing an update on the forms to incorporate everything that's happened over the last year or so. And hopefully at the next meeting I'll have all updated forms and we can review them at that time, and hopefully the board will see that they will be sufficient and approve the new forms at that time.
Okay, thank you. We have general correspondence. Any correspondence from any of the cities or towns? The only thing that jumped out with me, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to read the thing from NIMCOG, Northern Middlesex Council of Government. Did you see the new thing there, Joe? Yeah. I know it was in the front page of the Lawyers Weekly about the Special Permit Authority. I think maybe we could give that some detail. I thought of reading some of it, but some of the pages are missing. So I noticed that there's a website that talks about the law in more detail. Maybe we can get some feelings towards that and discuss it at the next meeting. Sure. Okay. It talks basically about a new law that was passed by the governor in regards to special permit authority and whether cities or towns want to join that process and authority. I know NIMCOG is very much involved in it. We have a copy in the packet, but when reading it, some of the pages were missing. Maybe they're omitted intentionally because they don't reflect everything, but it talks about whether the cities or towns can join if they want. Have there been any discussion of that in-house yet, or if it's a law department?
We've had some minor discussions in-house. I know people have just been discussing it very basically. I think the general understanding is that it's something that could be positive, but it ultimately has to be adopted by the community. That basically has to go to the county. I imagine we would have to review it as a planning board, as a department, as a law department, to see if legally we even want to consider this ordinance. And then it would have to be approved by the council. So it's in very preliminary discussions right now.
Yeah, I just want to bring it out, since it's in our packet, we have a copy of it there, we can read it, and then if we want to bring it up in the future and see whether our city and town is something that's amenable to getting involved in this, like I said, it would require a vote by the council, I believe, and to create a new ordinance per se.
I believe it would, yeah.
Right. But it talks about the boards and who has to vote on, which not.
Right. I imagine there's I'm not an
Yes,
expert
a lot of
on
it's
that
still
ordinance
preliminary,
right now, so.
and it talks about the screening process and how it has to be set up and comment period. And it's pretty intensive to begin with.
It's a very intensive ordinance, and when I initially heard about it, I was a little skeptical because there are some questions that I think as a city we really need to consider. I won't get into those details right now, but each community sort of would I would imagine would want to consider it as how it would actually interact with their own permitting process and their own permitting system, and I think we really need to look a little bit deeper into how this may contradict with some of the stuff that we're doing now, or benefit some of the
We have to take a
processes.
bigger look to see how it affects our city.
So,
absolutely. Okay, I just
but
want
for
to
general
point that out
discussion.
in our packet. Okay. Moving on, we have our recommendations for the zoning board legal notices. I believe we have 2 matters in our packet tonight. To recommend this would be matters that are going before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is scheduled for a public hearing on August 28th, 2006 at 6:30 p.m. First matter is the trustees of Canal Side Realty Trust. This is for a special permit and variance for TMU, which is traditional mixed use area. This is 900 Lawrence Street. Petition for the demolition of existing vacant mill building and construction of a 16 residential townhouse within the existing foundation without the required lot area per dwelling unit, side, rear yard, and front lot setbacks. This was one of the matters that was before us at our last public hearing, where we voted in favor, at least for the matters that come before us. Now they're going before the Zoning Board of Appeal. We approved this site plan and the special permit, I believe. This is for them to go forward on their variances. Any questions or concerns at this time for the board members?
I think we did review this last time in pretty extensively. I'd make a motion that we recommend approval.
A motion has been made?
Second.
And second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, chair votes yes. Motion passes 4-0. Next matter is James Gonzalez for a variance for a suburban single family. This is on 38 Birch Street. Petition to construct an addition with attached garage without the required front yard setback. This is right off Wentworth Ave, right past the school. You take a right, go down to the ways, it's on the left-hand side. What it appears is he doesn't have his frontage. He has an existing house and he has an existing porch. The porch meets everything. He wants to rip the porch down and put up a proposed 24 by 24 addition with a 1-car garage. His frontage, he needs 30 feet. He has 28.2. So he's missing the 1.10 feet to get his frontage on this matter. I know in the application, his legal reasoning, which he requested, is because everybody else doesn't have front yard. I noticed that when he applied for that. I did go up there and look at it today. The people on his side of the street are basically pretty close to the 30. The people on the right side of the street, if you're heading off Wentworth, they're a lot closer to the street line than this gentleman is. I know that. So basically, he's up a little more than a foot. Why he can't go back, I'm not sure. As it is now, if you go back, he has that porch that's attached to the house. That's back about, as it is now, it's 12 feet, so he's gonna come about maybe 12 or 18 feet. He's gonna come a little closer.
It looks like he's setting it back a bit aesthetically from the house, but if you look at the house, I would imagine that that house, it's 3.1 feet from the left lot line, so it's probably a pre-existing non-conforming house. And it looks like that 28.2 is not any closer to the street than the existing house is now.
No.
So I think the issue is with the house, the distance of the house from the street and the distance of the house from the left setback. What he's looking to do is not any more of an encroachment than any of those things. So I don't think I'd have a problem with that addition. He'll be 15 plus feet off the lot line.
I don't have a problem with, like I said, I was up there tonight before I came to the meeting. I looked it over. I said, on the right side of the street, they're a lot closer. They're probably anywhere from 10 to 12 feet. On the left side, most of them are set back in about this range. I think it'll be consistent with the neighborhood, so I have no problems with it.
So I'd make a motion to recommend approval.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so that votes for nothing. Moving along, do we have any further comments from planning board members? No. The only two things I have is one, our next meeting is on a Thursday, which is September, I think it's 7th, because of the Thursday night, because of the Monday holiday. And also, since it's the first Monday in September, that will be considered under new bylaws, our annual meeting. So we'll be up for election of officers on that day, the new election of officers. Okay? Because we adopted our bylaws back in March or April, whatever it was, the annual meeting will be the first meeting in September. So, if there's no other further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. Thank you. Good night, everybody.